Behind the Line, episode 18. I'm your host, KC. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube. It goes a long way in supporting the show. Just to give you guys a heads up, we're going to be having Phoenix Suns writer and NBA editor of The Step Back, Gerald Bourget, on the podcast this weekend. We're going to be covering a slew of topics that are related to the NBA. It should be a good interview. I'm probably going to post it on Saturday morning along with my NFL picks for the weekend. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of heads up on that. Going to get into our NFL midseason review today. I'm not going to sit here and review every team in the league. That's just way too drawn out and boring. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the teams that are in the playoff hunt right now that I'm concerned about not making the playoffs, and I'm going to explain why. So let's start with the Buffalo Bills. As expected, the Bills' defense is the strength of this team. They're ranked third in yards allowed, fifth in points allowed. First 5 weeks of the season, the Buffalo defense was able to carry the load, and this team went 4-1. The problem with Buffalo is the offense. We've talked about it on this podcast several times throughout this season. We saw what happened last week against Philadelphia when the Bills defense has an off day or they have matchup problems. The Eagles fucking torched them, and the offense couldn't keep up. If the Buffalo defense can't keep a team under 20 points, they're most likely going to lose. That is a tough way to win consistently. Turnovers were a problem earlier in the year, and they were able to overcome them because they were going up against weaker offensive teams. Josh Allen and the offense they've cleaned up the turnover problem the last few weeks. But that was against Miami and Philadelphia. Not exactly two great defenses. I mean, Philadelphia, half of their fucking defensive starters are out injured. Luckily for the Bills, they only really have 3 tough games the rest of the season, or what I would consider tough. They go on the road to Dallas, they got Baltimore at home, and then they go on the road to New England. Every other game, they should be favored to win. However, the problem is, with this offense being so anemic, the Bills' defense can't afford to slip. They allowed the Dolphins, an awful offensive team, to hang around a couple of weeks ago and put up 21 points on them. They've got the Browns coming up who have the ability to score. My point is, there's no margin of error for this defense. They've got to play a perfect game every week. They gave up 70 points through the first 5 weeks of the season. They've given up 51 points the last 2 games. Buffalo's not winning the AFC East. The wild card is their only way into the playoffs. Titans and Jags are 2 games behind them. If the Bills' defense can play like they did earlier this season, Buffalo should be fine. But if they look like they've looked the past 2 weeks, the Bills could be in trouble. Also in the AFC, I'm slightly concerned about the Houston Texans. And this is why. They're in a dogfight in their division. Indianapolis currently has got a 1-game lead. That really counts for 2 games because they've already beaten Houston once this year. Losing J.J. Watt for the season is a big deal. I know it's happened before and they've been able to make the playoffs, but I think it's going to be a big deal this year. They still have Deshaun Watson in the lineup, and as long as they have Deshaun Watson, this team will have a chance to make the playoffs. The question is, can they keep Watson healthy? After going 2 straight weeks with no sacks, everyone, myself included, was thinking that maybe this Houston offensive line had fixed their issues. That doesn't appear to be the case. Watson's been sacked 6 times the last 2 weeks. The Oakland Raiders defense, who has struggled rushing the passer all year, sacked him 3 times last week. I think the biggest threat to Houston in the battle for the final AFC wildcard spot is going to be the Tennessee Titans. I said it before the season. I've been saying it the last couple of weeks. This is a different offense with Ryan Tannehill under center. The Titans are a dangerous team. Great defense, good running game. And now they finally have a quarterback that can extend the field and beat you through the air and keep this Titans team in games. I'm staying with my preseason pick of Tennessee grabbing the final wildcard spot in the AFC. I know people are going to think I'm crazy, but I don't think this Texans team is going to make the playoffs. Houston has the better quarterback, but I think Tennessee's got the better defense. The Texans have a tough schedule down the stretch. At Baltimore, New England, at Tampa. Division game against Jacksonville, and 2 coming up against the Titans. I think as the season progresses and Deshaun Watson takes more and more punishment, he's going to regress a little bit. We've seen what happens when he doesn't get time, when you get pressure on him. The Texans lose. We saw it against the Saints in week 1. They have a stretch of games coming up against teams that have good pass rushes. I think Tennessee wins the final AFC wildcard spot. Houston watches the playoffs from home. All right, let's get to the NFC. Top 3 seeds will stay the same in my opinion. I think New Orleans would be the number 1 seed, followed by San Francisco and Green Bay. The rest is up for grabs. Let's start with the Dallas Cowboys. I said during my preseason predictions that I didn't think the Cowboys would make the playoffs, and I'm sticking with that. To be honest, I don't think this Cowboys team is very good. Middle of the pack. I think the defense has actually regressed from last season. You all know how I feel about Dak Prescott. He leads the league in QBR, which completely blows my mind. I don't know how that's possible. I just don't think Dak Prescott is that good. Like I've said all season, you stop Ezekiel Elliott and you stop this Dallas offense. Dak cannot put this team on his shoulders and lead them to victory. He just can't do it. We've seen it too many times. When the Cowboys struggle to run the ball, they fucking lose. Only shot Dallas has at the playoffs is to win their division. That's it. There's too many other better teams in the NFC for Dallas to claim a wild card spot. The NFC's fucking loaded. And honestly, I think the Eagles are going to win the NFC East. As bad as they've been at times this season, I still think Philadelphia wins this division. They had the better quarterback and they had the better head coach. I think Dallas finishes this season 9-7. And Jerry Jones enters this offseason with a couple of tough decisions to make. Will Jason Garrett keep his job? Is Dak Prescott the quarterback of the future in Dallas? In my opinion, the answer to both of those questions is no. Dak Prescott is fool's gold. His stats look good. Win-loss record is good. But at the end of the day, this guy is not taking you all the way to the Super Bowl. If Jerry Jones believed that he was, wouldn't he have signed him to a big contract over the summer instead of waiting? I mean, he might franchise tag him next year, but I honestly don't think that Jerry Jones has very much faith in Dak Prescott. The 2 NFC wildcard spots are occupied by Seattle and Minnesota midway through the season. As bad as Kirk Cousins was earlier this year, he has been lighting it up the last 4 weeks. Minnesota, in my opinion, is better than Seattle. Better all-around team. Better running game, better defense. I think the Vikings will end up being the number 5 seed in the NFC. As far as Seattle goes, I can't figure them out. I had them making the playoffs before the season, and they're sitting at 6-2. They're off to a great start. But this team is all Russell Wilson and nothing else. The Seahawks aren't good defensively, giving up about 25 points a game. And they've lost their home field advantage. I don't know what happened up in the Pacific Northwest. Seattle used to be one of the toughest places to play in this league. It used to be loud as fuck in that stadium. I mean, you could not hear anything on the field. That's no longer the case. Both Seattle losses this year have been at home. Russell Wilson's leading the MVP race right now, and rightfully so. There's no other quarterback in the NFL that is more important to his team right now than Russell Wilson. You take him off this Seattle team, they're 3-13, 4-12. I'm not going to say Seattle isn't going to make the playoffs, but it's going to be a tough road. The Rams are nipping at their heels. Carolina's not far behind. They've got a tough stretch of games ahead of them. At San Francisco, at Philly, Minnesota, at the Rams, at Carolina, San Francisco to close out the season at home. That's as brutal of a stretch of games that you can have. But even if they split, go 3-3, and beat Tampa next week and Arizona in week 16, they end up 11-5. They already have a win over the Rams this year. So I'm going to reluctantly stick with my preseason prediction and say that Seattle will be the number 6 seed in the NFC. But it's going to be a damn tough road. Russell Wilson misses one game, and this could change. That's how important he is to this Seattle team. All right, moving on. Baker Mayfield is back in the news again, and for all the wrong reasons. At this point, maybe it'd be wise for this team to stop making this guy speak to the media. Because every time he does, he gets emotional at some question and ends up acting out. Every Wednesday, it seems, he has his weekly conference with the media, and every fucking Wednesday, a new story is created. Mayfield was asked if the Browns lacked urgency during a possession in the first half during the New England game. He blamed a penalty for killing the drive, which ended on a short pass as time expired in the first half. Then he said the following during a follow-up question. Quote, "Stop saying but. I just told you the clock was running and we had a penalty. You want to give them the ball back? No, you don't play. You don't know it. That's just plain and simple." When he was asked if he was happy with the way the drive ended, Mayfield said, "Was I happy with the drive? No, we didn't score points. The dumbest question you could ask. What? Jesus, Tony." After that exchange, he stormed out of the room. This is your franchise quarterback, Browns fans. This is your franchise quarterback. Your guy. I hope you're happy with him. When is the last time you saw Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers? When is the last time you've seen any of those guys behave like this? You need to go on ESPN or YouTube to watch the video to really get the full effect of it. When I finally get video on this podcast, I'm going to start uploading these videos while we watch them together. You really need to see the video to see the full effect of it. But you never see guys like Rivers, Brees, Brady, or Wilson act this way. This is the difference between a franchise quarterback and a losing quarterback. I'm sure Baker Mayfield is extremely frustrated. The media hyped this guy up last season as the savior of this Browns franchise. He went into the offseason thinking he was the shit. 22 commercials filmed during the offseason. When what he should have been doing is learning how to throw a pass to the guys wearing the same color jersey as him. He's tied with Jameis Winston for most interceptions thrown this year. An interception in every game this season. It's not going to get any better this season either. Or maybe ever for Baker. The Browns front office made a huge mistake when they gave Freddie Kitchens this job, instead of hiring Bruce Arians, who was available. If Arians was the head coach, I would be a little bit more optimistic about Baker Mayfield's future. But Freddie Kitchens has no idea what the fuck he's doing. Some in Cleveland are excited because Tyreek Hill will return from his suspension in a couple of weeks, thinking that's going to turn the season around. The season's fucking over. Kitchens doesn't have a clue what to do with the offensive weapons that he has now. So how is adding another player that needs the ball to be effective going to solve this offense's problems? I tell you, it's not. All right, let's get into the NBA for a second. The Golden State Warriors have started this season 1-3. Throughout their 5-year run, this team received lots of attention for its offensive proficiency. But I really think that the reason they were so hard to beat was because they were so good defensively. Draymond Green's a great defender. Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant was a good defender. They had a great bench. This season, the Warriors are dead last in defensive rating. And now things go from bad to worse. This team started 1-3 with Steph Curry in the lineup. He broke his hand Wednesday night in their loss to the Suns and is going to be out for the next couple of months. Season over for the Golden State Warriors. It's done. When is the last time we've said that Steve Kerr's Warriors season was over before the end of October? It's never happened. I'm not sure this team was making the playoffs with a healthy Steph Curry, especially since Klay Thompson's going to be out for the year. But without Curry, this is a lottery team. Maybe this is a good thing for the Golden State Warriors, though. Look, this was always going to be kind of a step-back season. Kevin Durant left. Klay Thompson out pretty much all year. The Warriors weren't winning the title this year. This season can be used for these guys to rest and recharge. Listen, the core of this team has been through deep playoff runs the past 5 years straight, playing big minutes into mid-June. Now Curry and Thompson have the opportunity to get a full calendar year of rest. Also, when Golden State General Manager Bob Myers made his trade to the Nets for D'Angelo Russell, the first-round pick that he sent was protected. So if they get a lottery pick, they get to keep it. The Warriors haven't drafted higher than 28 since 2012. Think about it. Next season, they're going to have a fully healthy Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, a potentially high draft pick, and D'Angelo Russell. That's a pretty good lineup. Not to mention, they can, if they want, they can use D'Angelo Russell as trade bait to bring in another veteran player that they need. There aren't many high-quality, big-name free agents that are going to be available in the summer of 2020. They were all grabbed up this past summer. A lot of people were skeptical anyway of this D'Angelo Russell trade because he's so similar to Klay Thompson. This season's lost for Golden State. It's over. They got that big brand new arena. They're not paying it off this year. No longer are they going to be getting $10,000 for courtside seats for a regular season game in December. Not happening this year. But I can see the Warriors bouncing back in a big way next season. We're going to discuss this more over the weekend with Gerald Burgett from the Step Back. See what he thinks about the future of the Golden State Warriors. All right, let's get to the college football plays for this weekend. Been doing well with our college football picks lately. 4-2 the last 2 weeks. I'll be honest. It does not look like a great weekend for college football. Not really excited about any of these games. Actually, it's going to be a real shitty weekend for college football. Georgia, Florida might be okay. Other than that, there really isn't another game on the schedule that's really must-see appointment television, in my opinion. That's why we bet these games, to make them interesting. First up, Georgia at Florida. Current line, Georgia -6. The annual neutral site game in Jacksonville. This game's kind of lost a bit of its luster with Georgia losing to South Carolina a few weeks ago. I haven't been impressed with Georgia, especially the last couple of weeks. Lost to South Carolina at home. Didn't look good at all against a bad Kentucky team. The defense has been doing its part and is one of the better units in the country. The problem I have with the Bulldogs is they're so undisciplined. This is one of the most penalized teams in the country, which I think is one of the reasons the offense has struggled. Georgia and Florida, they're two similar teams. Florida also has a strong defense, but has struggled on the offensive side. Trask has done a decent job replacing Felipe Franks at the quarterback position, and the offense has seemed to find its stride the last couple of weeks after struggling through most of the early part of the season. Last 4 SEC games, Florida's averaging 31 points a game. I don't see either one of these teams scoring much Saturday afternoon. I think this is going to be a defensive game. Always a good reason to take the free points. Not to mention the fact that Florida's on a roll against the spread, going 4-0-1 their last 5 games. Going to take Florida +6. Next up, Utah at Washington. Current line, Utah -3.5. Utah is one of the better defenses in the country. Actually, they're one of the best defenses in the country. Other than that one shocking loss to USC, This team's been dominant all season. This spread is really low, almost as if Vegas is begging you to load up on Utah in this strong defense. I'm going the opposite way. I know Washington has 2 bad losses against Cal and Stanford, but they played a very good Oregon team close at home, and the Huskies are very hard to beat on their home field. Not to mention, Washington's coming off a bye week and has been dominant against Utah the past few years. The Huskies have covered the number the past 2 meetings against Utah and actually beat them 10-3 on the road last year. I feel like this could be a low-scoring game, just like Georgia-Florida. Going to take the home team and the points, taking Washington plus 3.5. All right, last up, Oregon at USC, current line, Oregon minus 4.5. This seems like an easy pick to me. No one is going to mistake USC for a great football team, but they play really well at home. They haven't been beaten at home all season. Beat a tough Utah squad at home. USC struggles have all come on the road. I understand Oregon's got a great defense, NFL caliber quarterback in Justin Herbert. However, this team isn't blowing out inferior opponents like we've seen them do in the past. And it struggles on the road. Close game on the road against Stanford throughout that game. They squeaked out a win last week against Washington State at home. There have been games this season where this high-powered Oregon offense has struggled. 17 points against Cal. Only 21 against Stanford. Oregon is 6-13-1 against the spread their last 20 road games. The Trojans are 4-1 at home against the number their last 5 home games. It's a night game in the Rose Bowl. Tough environment to play in. I like Oregon to win, but I like USC to cover, taking USC plus 4.5. I've been betting heavy favorites most of the year in college football. This weekend I'm taking all dogs. Doesn't happen often. Just to recap, going with Florida plus 6, Washington plus 3.5, USC plus 4.5. Like I said earlier, really shitty weekend of college football coming up. The 3 games I just told you about are really the only good games of the weekend. Big weekend for the Pac-12 though. Alright, that's all for today guys. I'll be back tomorrow morning with my NFL plays for Sunday and my interview with Gerald Brigette. We will be going over all the big news in the NBA. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave a comment in the section below with your college football picks for this weekend. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. I will see you guys tomorrow morning.